It's a very good morning to Professor Tim Noakes. Hi, Tim.
Morning, Wayne.
Tim, now, you've had two papers published in the South African Medical Journal. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. There was the one that we've spoken about, which was the 127 people who wrote to me about their results when they changed their diets to become low-carb eaters. And the other one was a review of a $700 million study, the Women's Health Initiative, which I spoke about in the great centenary debate last year at UCT, and showed that there was information in that paper which shows that if you have heart disease or diabetes and you change your diet so that you start eating a low-fat diet, you do worse than if you continue to eat your same diet. And that point was never made when the findings of the paper, of that study, were published. So I also wrote that was the second paper in the South African Medical Journal, and I'm glad to report that they've both been very popular. The one about the Women's Health Initiative has been viewed now over 6,000 times in the last week or so since publication. And my article on the 127 who reported their weight loss and their health improvements on the diet has been viewed over 4,000 times.
Now, Tim, can I just establish that this isn't an article to a blog site? This is the leading South African medical journal. Is that correct? That gets peer-reviewed? That's
correct. That is peer-reviewed, and they then publish the work, and they have their own website, and you can access and download the papers for free, and so that they know how many people have accessed the articles, read them, or downloaded them. And so that this is an academic audience who would be reading these articles.
Right. Now the other thing is the group think with scientists. Let's take a listen to that. Discuss it. When scientists get together, or people in groups who get together, what is the understanding of that?
Well, interestingly, I discussed that at the Ethics Exchange Conference, which was held in Cape Town on Tuesday morning at the Fugard Theatre in Cape Town. And there were about 8 of us, or 10 of us perhaps, speakers. And I spoke on when groupthink is unethical. And my point was that groupthink is when you have an in-group of people. To be a member of that in-group, you all have to think exactly the same. And you may not condone any thinking that conflicts with that group belief or groupthink. And it was really described in a book in 1972, and it followed perhaps from other work that had been published, like 1984 by Orwell, who wrote the book 1984. And he also described this as thought control, and that he said ultimately in a society that controls its people, there is no thinking. And that was the point of groupthink. Actually, no one's thinking. And so I looked at the heart diet hypothesis and the cholesterol causing heart disease, and looked at the evidence that this was groupthink, and that we do not teach in our medical schools anywhere in the world or in our schools of nutrition the converse theories, which are out there and are available and are real. In other words, there is evidence for them, but we don't teach them. And we don't teach them because of this groupthink, and everyone wants to think the same.
Is this very dangerous for our scientific approach?
Well, this is really very interesting, because the ethical requirements of the Health Professional Council of South Africa, who, by the way, incidentally have again come out and said that Noakes' diet is dangerous, their ethical requirement is that a medical practitioner may not prescribe only one form of treatment if another form is known to be effective. So therefore, it's unethical in South Africa for a doctor or for a nutritionist or a dietitian to only offer one option, one form of treatment, if it is known that there is a second form of treatment. And so, and the same applies. We can't teach in our medical schools or our dietetic schools only one model. We can't just say you have to eat carbohydrates and you can't eat fat. That's because the evidence conflicts with that. Now, what's really interesting today, the United States FDA, the Federal Drug Agency, declared that trans fats are dangerous for your health and must be removed from the food chain. Now, when the 1977 dietary guidelines were brought out by the Department of Agriculture in the United States, they said you had to replace saturated fat with trans fats and polyunsaturated fats, even though at the time a scientist, Mary Enig, said this is disastrous. She said trans fats are dangerous. They will cause ill health. Now, it's taken us 40 years to come along and say that she was right. And the clear evidence is that those guidelines, which were drawn up in 1977, were the result of groupthink. And no one was prepared to stand up aside from the group and say, hold on, there's other evidence. So when Mary Enig came out, she was demonized and she was sidelined, and she was in fact silenced. And the vegetable oil industry went after her because they had the opportunity now to demonize saturated fat and make vegetable oils healthy.
So 1984.
And it's such a sad story that happened right there before 1984.
Tim, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate that information, and we'll chat with you again on Tuesday when you come in at 7.
I can't wait to be there.
Thank you so much, Tim. You have a great day.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.